Your Body, the Movement Instrument. Written and narrated by June Idrissa, founder of Integrity of Self Movement Arts, ISMA. The information in this book is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. This book is dedicated to my mother, Norma Sheila, my father, Caleb Adolphus, and my nanny, Tanti Millie. Your Body, the Movement Instrument. Celebrating beauty and balance in your life through the appreciation of movement. Hello, and a warm welcome to you. The fact that you are listening to my work right now tells me that you have an interest, a spark of curiosity, and a yearning to understand the beauty of integrity of self movement arts, ISMA. I invite you to join me on a journey back to a place and time when movement was an event and was felt. During the creation process of developing embryos and fetuses, we moved and continued to move as we took on form and substance. Then one day, our movements were felt by our mothers. We were acknowledged as having life. We continued to move and grow until we were fully formed and made our grand entrance onto the earth stage. A divine creation, well designed with systems in place and many set to function automatically. We were now in the broader expanse with room to grow. We were now that I am. As I am, you are a newborn baby in your earthly environment. You continue to move and grow. You experience the flickering of life's energy passing through your form, accompanied by movement. There are squirms and twists, stretches and contractions. Mixed with your movements are quieter times of knowing, of the intuit, where you could feel the life energy moving through your form. Soon your movement becomes more directed. A realization dawns upon you, and there is an understanding now that you can direct I am. With a single thought, you can ignite your muscles into action to move your bones. At this pivotal point of convergence, your systems are beginning to work together. Your motor skills begin to develop rapidly, and soon, baby I am is rolling over, sitting up, standing, and trying to find your balance. You are on your way to walking and full mobility. A miracle is indeed unfolding. You are becoming a fully integrated self. Integrity of Self Movement Arts, ISMA, is the powerful acknowledgement of your full physical self. It is, to put it simply, the powerful acknowledgement that your body is indeed your movement instrument. I am writing this beautiful booklet to share what I have learned through observation, experience, practice, good health, and continued mobility. I would like you, dear reader, to embrace your birthright, get acquainted with your own unique movement instrument, and recapture the pleasure of moving once again. Please accept this invitation to join me on a movement journey, and in the process, you will become more intimately acquainted with your own incredible movement instrument. The process is enjoyable, heartwarming, and rewarding. Appreciation begins with the appreciation of self, the I am. Integrity of self establishes a sense of balance, harmony, and well being that transcends the individual. It permeates the air and is in the attitude of the mind. The manifestations of good health and well being can then encourage others to appreciate and utilize their movement instruments. My first fascination with the body and its movement capabilities began at the age of 5 as a little girl on the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean. It was the day the circus came to town, and I had the good fortune to be there, wide-eyed and up close. The energy in the air was vibrant, filled with anticipation and the sounds and smells of nature. It was wonderful to be in the midst of it all. The parade of elephants, the galloping horses with standing riders, the thrills and chills of the trapeze artists swinging ever so high. But the real magic came for me when the contortionist stepped on the stage in that arena. Here was the human form with all its possibilities in full display, right before my eyes, the eyes of a 5-year-old little girl. I witnessed the demonstration of a well-designed work of art. I remember watching in awe as the contortionist moved his body into and out of every conceivable shape. I had never seen or even imagined anything like that before. How incredible is that? I asked myself, awestruck and captivated by what I was seeing. And then the life-altering realization. I have a body just like that. Right then and there, at that very moment, began my curiosity about the limitless capabilities of the human form and its ability to express itself through movement. The moment I got home from the circus, I began to work on the possibilities of my body. I got into my grandmother's rocking chair and sat and rocked, with every rock attempting to get my ankle behind my neck. Once I got one foot in place, I continued to rock until the second ankle was in place. As time progressed, getting in and out of that position became attainable and then effortless with practice. Eventually, I was able to do so almost on command. I liked the feeling of exploring and expanding into new possibilities with my body. Even at that very young age, I sensed and felt the cooperation within my whole body in accomplishing this endeavor. I proudly exhibited my new trick to family and friends. It was the first step along my miraculous movement journey. My friends eventually became participants as I tried the movements and steps I envisioned. At the age of 11 years, my childhood on the island was transformed into life in New York, USA. I arrived in July during the summer. I remember having so much fun on those hot days when the fire hydrants were open and the powerful gust of flowing water cooled off the streets and the happy children. We had such fun running through the water in our swimsuits. The sprinklers in the playgrounds were also turned on for the children to run through, providing hours of summer fun. Yet, my fondest memory was seeing and learning a new way of jumping rope I had not seen before. The children were jumping something called double dutch. I had never seen two ropes being turned together at the same time before and without touching each other. Even more incredible was the skill with which the children entered the ropes without disrupting the two-directional swing, and how they commenced jumping and creating rhythmic patterns while turning around. The first time I saw girls jumping double dutch, I was totally transfixed, with almost as much intensity and curiosity as I experienced during that first visit to the circus. I couldn't take my eyes off those girls. It seemed like their bodies, the fast swinging jump ropes, and the closely synchronized movements required every bit as much skill as the circus performers. Even at that young age, I was in full observation mode. One thing I was sure of was that double Dutch required skills. Just to get into the swinging ropes required excellent timing and careful precision. Once inside the ropes, agility, creativity, and endurance are required too. I knew I had a lot of catching up to do. I hoped that my new friends would be patient while I learned. I was happy they were. You see, I was not only their new friend, but their new foreign friend, who they thought was speaking a different language when they first met me. I still remember them asking me what language I was speaking. I was speaking English, of course, but with a Trinidadian accent, which sounded quite different than their New York accents. Here's the beauty of adaptability and growth, though. Quite quickly, we all learned to speak a lot slower and to enunciate our words more clearly so that we could better understand each other. These experiences were all part of my enjoyable first summer in America. I happily wrote to my friends in Trinidad and shared my experiences with them. When the fall school year began and I arrived at my new school, I saw that double Dutch was very popular. Most of the girls and even some of the boys jumped double Dutch during recess and at lunch period after eating. There were two parts to the participation: jumping and turning. I was fortunate to have gotten acquainted with both aspects of double Dutch over the summer. I had not mastered this movement art entirely yet. And yes, double Dutch is indeed a movement art. But I was a solid participant who could jump and turn. I could hold my own. So these are some of the early experiences that launched my journey into movement art. And they continued, fortunately, into my adolescent years. At 13, my first formal dance training began with ballet classes at Carnegie Hall Ballet Arts in New York City. Very quickly, dance became my passion, and as time progressed, my movement training expanded to include various forms of dance, taekwondo, tai chi, yoga, and gymnastics. I have danced, trained, and performed with some of the best, including the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, Dance Theater of Harlem, Harkness House of Ballet, Chuck Davis African Dance Company, George Faison Universal Dance Experience, Eleo Pomare Dance Company, and the Indie Bam Dance Theater Company. I earned my Bachelor of Fine Arts and Master of Fine Arts degrees from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. At NYU, I was first introduced to labonotation, a system of analyzing and recording movement, also known as the written language of movement. We will explore labonotation in a later chapter. I continued my movement language literacy training at the Dance Notation Bureau in New York City, where I received my labonotation teacher and my reconstructor director certificates. I became a consultant for the Dance Notation Bureau before joining the doctoral program at Texas Woman's University, where my proficiency in labonotation satisfied my second foreign language requirement. When I became a mother, observing the movement of my children shined a bright, brilliant light on the realization that we are, all of us, movement instruments. The children brought an awakened sensibility and sensitivity to the I am form. My children seemed to have an innate sensibility in how they moved. They were highly receptive to imagery and embodiment. They were my inspiration, and suddenly, the solo movement journey I'd been taking throughout my childhood and adolescence became a collective journey as I moved into adulthood. because my children were a vital part of this continued journey, and how beautifully this collective family journey continued and evolved. Here's how. I formed the Indie Bam Dance Theater Company. Indie Bam means family or strong friendship bond in the Igbo language of West Africa. The company at its formation consisted of me and my two children at the time. Our first public performance occurred in New York City when my son was 4 years old and my daughter was only 8 months old. Indie Bam continued performing in New York, Texas, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Indie Bam's last public performance was at the historic Glen Echo Park's Spanish Ballroom when my oldest son was 11, my daughter was 7, and my twin sons were 5. 3 new company members selected for that performance were not part of the family. One was a dear friend and professional dancer I knew from NYU, and the other 2 were children ages 6 and 13 selected from the Indie Bam School of the Dance Art. There was an energy and connection that was very strong in the company. The children were remarkable. They took on their roles and mastered their parts like seasoned professionals. I was deeply proud of them. The Washington Post's review of the company's performance that day used the adjectives meticulous and precise. My daughter was present and tuned in with me during her first performance with the company at only 8 months old, and I was confident she would be. Again, at age 3, she showed her old world connection and ability to tune in. I was the guest choreographer and principal dancer for a stage production of Thomas Meloncon's play, And This is South Africa, in Houston, Texas. My son had already auditioned and secured a role in the play. When the director mentioned that the company was looking for a very young child with the acting ability for a dramatic scene, my son and I immediately knew it sounded perfect for his sister. And indeed it was. She commanded the stage and nailed the audition the following day. My husband came with the family to the theater for rehearsals, and at home he was the structure on which I choreographed the all-male minor scene for the production. Before long, he was encouraged to join in during the rehearsals and to sweat alongside his fellow minors. The show opened with 4 members of our family in the production and continued for the full run of the production in Houston. All of this, my own experiences with movement, provides a powerful reminder that movement art can indeed be a family affair, as witnessed and evidenced in my own life. My movement journey continued to grow and evolve. I directed and choreographed an adaptation of Thornton Wilder's play Childhood for the S. Randolph Edmonds Players of Bowie State University. My daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, portrayed a little boy who could become whatever his 2 older sisters willed him to be. Taking on the part, she became that little brother who could transform himself into a jump rope as he was being turned by his sisters, or the springy bouncing ball as it rebounded while being bounced. He embodied the qualitative aspect of whatever the sisters willed him to become, and that painted vision carried the audience along. These were some of the games the children enjoyed playing in my adaptation of Childhood. Using her breath, giving into her water weight, and controlling her energy flow and balance, she made the manifestations believable, as she did in her portrayal of a little boy. Children can demonstrate phenomenal abilities, especially if tapped into at an early age, before they accept limitations or faulty movement patterns that become developed into habits. Over the years, as I've mentioned, I've been guided through many disciplines. I've had the opportunity to observe, experience, implement, and embody those disciplines through dance, martial arts, yoga, gymnastics, and swimming. There was so much to discover along the road. It is the continuous culmination of these extraordinary encounters, combined with the experiential wisdom that I have gathered over the decades as dance and theater performing artist, choreographer, professor, producer, director, magazine publisher, master teacher, speaker, and presenter that has deepened my commitment to sharing with others the vital principles of integrity of self. What we are about to embark upon, then, is not one journey, but two. As we move through these pages, as we walk through each of these chapters, we embark on a literary journey, yes, but as we begin our journey towards more fully appreciating our bodies as the movement instruments that they are, we also embark on a journey of our own amazing bodies. And to fully understand these awesome bodies that we inhabit, it's best that we begin at the beginning. We do not recall the movements we made when our mothers first felt us fluttering about in our own amniotic fluid. Those movements are innate, although they may no longer be intimate. The movement itself is as ancient and as fundamental as water. Water, the source of all life as we know it.